to feel my own home fans actually turn on a young lone player was difficult. Poland was someone that did inquire, and nobody knew who was calling the shots and who was going to be held accountable for the decisions that were being made.
Welcome back to the Blue Rising podcast, your home of all things Blues. It's the summer, but the content doesn't stop. And as always, my best friend in the whole wide world, former Blue striker, legend, Tommy Mooney, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Very kind of you.
There's strong rumours that you actually called for this podcast to be across the summer so you could spend more time with me. Is that correct?
No.
Exactly. Joining us today is a man that I could do an introduction for about half an hour. He means everything to me, and for that reason, the restraining order is still in place. Please welcome Lukas Jutkiewicz.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
It's a smaller crowd today. We normally have,
as well,
we normally have 4 or 5 back here, but it's
a summer break. It's a summer break. You know what it's like.
Well, let's start with that because you're not on your holidays, and you were saying off camera you'd be off to wherever in the world now, but you're very much hard at work, aren't you?
Yeah, complete turnaround really. You know, you get as a player, get to sort of May time, and that's when you have your freedom and you go off and enjoy your downtime with the family and kind of recoup after what's a long season. Whereas now it's very, very different. Things have started to heat up for us, and you're looking at trying to bring players in, and this is where all the fun starts.
How have you managed with that? Because last season was, I suppose it was that transitional period, wasn't it, from playing to going in at the last break. This time it's your first full summer in the role that you've got now. How are you finding it?
Yeah, it's been really good. I think that's why I wanted a little bit of a period after I finished playing, just to step away and reflect and kind of re-energise for what's next. And I think that was really important. And since having come into this new role, I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed the different pace, the different demands, and obviously maintaining my foot in the door in terms of football. So it's been great for me.
So what's it been like with that specific role then, in terms of going out there, finding these players? Obviously, there was a lot of chat around August coming in January and your work there, but how have you found doing that role and seeing the fruits of your labour?
Yeah, it's really rewarding when you see the players that you recommended getting out on the pitch, performing well for our club and performing and scoring goals and that sort of thing, with Ozzy coming in doing really well and Carlos as well, and you just hope that they settle in and find a rhythm, and I think you could see that towards the end of the season, with August as well, getting a run of games in the team and the team sort of benefiting from that and seeing a different side to our playing identity as well. So that was really pleasing.
Because we obviously with what you've done as well, is there sort of, I mean, we see it in August. How pleasing was it to see him get that goal on the final day? Because it had been coming, and I think match-going fans as well could really see that was going to happen as well.
Yeah, it was always a question of when, not if. I think he'd had a couple of times with potentially the late winner against West Brom that was disallowed, and hitting the post, having things off the line. You go through periods of that as a striker, as we both know. We had it, didn't we? And it's Tommy didn't, actually, to be fair to him.
No, I did too many times.
And it's more difficult when it happens when you join a club, because their fan base don't really care what you did before. It's what you're doing for their club, which is absolutely fair enough. But it was no doubt in anyone's mind here that he would start scoring goals and his performances would help the team, which is exactly what happened. And yeah, just really pleased that he got that before the end of the season, and looking forward to seeing how he develops going into next season.
You've been a fan of him as well, haven't we? We've both been watching on.
Yeah, I think he just brings us something different, doesn't he? Which essentially is one of your remits, is to bring in something that's not there at the moment for the manager. And I just think his energy and enthusiasm, we've had him in here, we've seen him around the training ground. He's not a shy lad, is he? And that helps.
Absolutely. I think you need confidence, as particularly as a striker, for when you're going through those periods where it hasn't quite fallen in the right way, or you've been a little bit unlucky with some of the things that have gone against you. I think it's so important to have that mentality, that he does have that resilience, that maturity as well, because it can be quite daunting going into a new club, and all of those characteristics that have really impressed everyone around the club, I think, with what he brings to the table, as well as what he's doing on the field.
This time of the year is a bit silly season with rumours and everything coming through. Obviously, you'd have been aware of it playing, but maybe not as much. But like, you're in the hub now, sort of trying to pick out those next talents. Is it like laughable, some of the rumours you see sometimes compared to what you're working on, or is it just a bit of both in terms of that?
Yeah, I think that obviously journalists get their information from all kinds of sources. So yeah, it can range from that is outrageous, that's never going to happen in a million years, to oh wow, they've actually got something right on the money, and that's not necessarily to do with this club, but just in general. When you hear things and you think how have they got that absolutely spot on, and then of course that same journalist could get something so far wrong. So it's a case of try and throw as many as darts as you can, and one will hit the bullseye, I'm sure.
Juki, as much as I want to talk about your career at Blues, I want to talk about your career in general as well. Striker, for me, it must have been since the day of birth that you were destined to be a striker. Were you always in that position? Talk to me how you got into football.
Yeah, so I think initially it's a case of everyone's running around all over the pitch anyway, and I ended up in the first few seasons at 8 or 9 years old playing sort of just centre midfield, just because you could just run around the pitch and try and just involve yourself as much as possible. And then as you go up and you develop, then everybody starts to kind of work out what everybody's niche qualities are, and you get put into positions. And so I only really swayed away from it when I was at Southampton Academy, and I had a massive growth spurt. I think it was 13 or 14. Must have grown 8 inches in a year or something like that. I was like Bambi on ice. I couldn't hold the ball or anything like that, because I was just getting nudged and be on the floor. And
we can be so relatable.
Exactly, you know how that is.
Now, yeah,
absolutely, yeah. So I got pushed to left back, as everybody always wants to be pushed to. Yeah, exactly. If that wasn't the biggest slap in the face, I don't know. I should have just taken the hint and left. But yeah, so the Southampton Academy trialled me at left back for a little bit, just because I was having struggle with my movement and sort of running and everything like that.
It does affect you though, because everybody matures at different stages. Yeah. So that affects when everybody goes through that growth spurt. You're still going through yours, are you? Yeah. It does affect you, particularly when you at that age. It's difficult to cope with things happening to your body, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Yeah, you're almost having to relearn your body movements and everything like that, all while trying to compete at that age group and at an elite level. So that was the only kind of deviation from striker really that I've had during my career. I've just noticed the mug that you're drinking out of.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a bit creepy. That
is. Well, how is that turned up? Yeah,
I was
my gift.
I was. Yeah. Thanks, mate. I was going to pass it over, but then I thought, how do I get around this microphone? I wasn't sure how to do it, but
you actually requested that mug, and then honestly, he's had that all season.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bring it in. I'll take it home, mate. I've had my morning coffee out of that this morning.
I'm honoured. I am.
So Southampton.
Yeah.
Left back. When does the transition to striker start?
So at that point, I did take the hint, and I left the academy system and went back to just playing my friends for a year, rediscovering just the love of the game without trying to push into an academy. Yeah. Went back and I think then started to fill out into my new body shape really, and then went back to playing up front again. And at that point, that's when Swindon picked me up when I was playing a district match.
So who was at Swindon at this time? Because when I was growing up, I think around the era that you're speaking about, there was like all sorts of good and bad going on around there.
Well, the good was again this man here. He would have been playing in the first team at Swindon at this point.
I thought that's where you were going with that.
It was because is he the good or the bad?
I'll let you decide.
I've made my mind up.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I only played one season, 24 goals.
Because I've heard we've even had guests on, which will remain nameless, that used to play with this man, and I could actually see the fear in their eyes as.
That was Roger Johnson. Let's not hide it. Roger was a gobby kid coming through at Wick,
and he needed to be knocked down a peg or two.
You know what it's like, senior pro.
That's it.
You've got to keep him level-headed. It worked. Look at the career he had.
He's welcome. He's welcome.
Yeah, absolutely, he's welcome.
I did.
No.
Okay. So you didn't pin him up against the dressing room.
No, Jude was in the youth team.
Yeah, that's
at the time.
Yeah. So playing as a schoolboy, I actually remember. I think you played Brighton in the playoff semi-final and lost on penalties. That to go to the championship, wasn't it?
It was.
I remember watching that as a kid, hoping you lost, because thinking that maybe I'll have more of a chance to get into the first team if they stayed in League One. So yeah, that was my first.
I mean, I tried my best. Really. I missed my penalty. I tried my best for you, mate. But you had to wait another year or two.
So how did you find that? Is that the first sort of rumblings around like that first team is really in sight to get in there?
Yeah, I think so. So at that time when Swindon wanted me to come back and train with them, and Southampton came back for me again. They'd kept tabs on me just because when I left, they wanted to get a feel for how I was growing, how I was developing into my body. So they actually just asked me to come back in. But at that point, I think I'd felt a little bit. a little bit scarred by the experience and wanted to try something new. I also felt that there would be avenues into a first team probably at a lower league club quicker than there would be at Southampton. So that was behind my thinking. So I don't think my mum thanked me for that one, because Southampton Academy's training ground was probably a mile from our front door, whereas obviously Swindon, she was having to pick me up straight from school, drive the 70 miles to training, train, come back and eat my chicken and pasta in the car on the way up and do my homework on the way home.
But that's often it's an issue that it's often overlooked, isn't it? Do you want to go to the big club where you've got less likelihood of playing in their first team, or do you want to go to a lower division club and hopefully break through? You must have been 14, 15 where you're thinking that.
That's it. Yeah.
I hope they don't get promoted. It's an interesting one.
And it was probably the first instance of me thinking about how a first team result might reflect and affect your own career, really. For at 14 or 15 to start thinking about actually a career progression, that was the kind of the beginning of what I thought of as a football career.
What was that first taste of first team football like for you? Because we hear from, obviously with Tom and different people, but I mean, I just can't imagine the scale of, like, you've worked your whole career up until that point to sort of make that appearance.
Yeah, it's something that you don't think is ever going to happen until it does. And I'd been on the bench for Swindon. I think I was 16, and I'd been on the bench and unused sub a couple of times.
And he'd gone by then.
At this point, yeah, he'd gone. Yeah,
the fear factor was a bit more. Thank you.
That's it. Yeah, everyone started to breathe out a little bit more. Yeah. He didn't flinch in the corridor as he walks past.
I mean, you're making me out to be the Incredible Hulk here. I was just a senior pro that like things done right.
Keeping the standards high, exactly.
High standards, exactly. That's what I demanded. Maybe I should start around here.
Yeah, we've had really good high standards this season.
Yeah, we have. No, you're right. Yeah, go on, carry on.
Sorry.
So and then it came away at Swansea, midweek game, and it worked out really well because so Lee Peacock was the main striker at the time, and I knew he actually drove me into training a lot of the time. Like, he took me under his wing, and he was trying to sort of like, kind of almost show me what a centre forward looks like and how he behaves, how he trains, that sort of thing. And he was great with me, and he'd given me the heads up. He said, by the way, I am struggling with my calf today, so make sure you're ready and you take it with a pinch of salt. But lo and behold, he 40 minutes into the first half, he comes off with the calf, and I'm expecting them to change the shape or do something else rather than put the 17-year-old on for his first appearance. And it was great because I had 5 minutes at the end of the first half to kind of run around, get used to the fact that I've just made my professional debut, and then go into half time and then take a breath and then hope you're not brought off at half time.
Because what is that like? That sounds like a really nice relationship, but then obviously when you get in the team, that might change, like, because those spots are few and far between.
Yeah, I don't think, I would always say, outside of the goalkeepers union, everybody else wants to play.
Yeah.
But you understand the team ethic. Perhaps not at 16, 17 years old, you don't understand that. You're a little bit more, I just need to break through.
Yeah.
And that's the importance of it. But yeah, the strikers union's a little bit different, isn't it? Because yes, you want your mates to do well and score goals, but you also want to be on the pitch doing it yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, like you say, with goalkeepers, it's a distinct category that you're going to be in general, whether you're a starter, whether you're to back up the starter, and whether you're going to be a training goalkeeper. People know their roles a little bit easier, so it's easier to then support the starter. Whereas I think with a striker, I think whenever another striker scores and you're on the bench, there's two feelings at the same time. You are genuinely pleased for them, but at the same time, you are a little bit, I won't get another chance for another 4 games now. So you do, there is that, and I think you wouldn't be human because you want to progress and you want to be the man that's scoring the goals for the team.
That feels for me like when a Villa player scores for England. I have like 2 seconds of delight, and then I'm a bit like, that's ruined for me now going forward.
Yeah, I can see that from you.
I just wanted to fast forward it a bit along as well. So obviously all these different loan moves at such a young age, obviously it is experience, but what's that like for you as an individual? Because you're young, you're trying to make your way in a career, but you probably don't know whether you're coming or going when it gets to like August and January each time of year.
Yeah. You get your move first though, don't you, from from Swindon to Everton, before the
which
loan.
was exactly, which was amazing and something I didn't expect to come. I think but Paul Stoic pulled me into the office and said, by the way, we've accepted an offer from a team. Like, who do you want it to be?
So how many games and goals had you had
so
at that
this point? I was 17 still, and I think I'd maybe played 35 first team games or something like that. So I'm still it's really new to me as well. I'm just getting he was the first manager that probably gave me a run as a starter in the team. And it was just after the January window. So it was a signing that would have been ready for the summer. And the club really needed the money, so it was probably one of those where they were looking to sell me. It wasn't a case of me being desperate to go or clubs knocking down the door. They were probably punting me around to clubs because the club really needed the money. And he asked me, he said, who do you want it to be? And I was quite sort of naive. I never thought of a club of that size would have any interest. So I said, maybe Southampton, I get to go home or something like that. When he said Everton, I couldn't believe a club that size would have taken an interest in me. And then I made the move up there at 18 years old, still really green, still new to football and what it means to be professional. And that was another kind of daunting experience before I even had the loan periods.
Just on that, who's sort of in and around that dressing room at the time?
So you had Phil Neville, Mikel Arteta, Andy Johnson, Leighton Baines was there. A year later, Phil Jagielka. I mean, Lee Carsley would have been there at that time as well.
So who were the strikers then? Who were the goal scorers?
So at that time, I think, Yakubu was there when I first signed. Yakubu was there. Tim Cahill would kind of play off the striker. Yeah. You had the young lads, James Vaughan, Victor Anichibi, and Louis Saha came in as well. So there's like some really top quality strikers in there as well. And James Beattie actually was on his way out that summer, but we kind of crossed over in that period as well, which was quite cool to then cross over again. Yeah.
What's it like in terms, because obviously you've been at Southampton at a younger age, and then you've seen and worked your way in at Swindon, but then to see like this elite level of even those strikers, that some of those are absolutely world class. What's it like to see those operate on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great learning experience. It was really intimidating, to be honest. I think I'd only just started to get to grips with being a first team player, even at League One, League Two level. So to then be transported to top end Premier League at that time, to be training in and around these experienced professionals and international players was quite daunting, really. And I think it's probably what, if I reflect on, I wasn't quite ready for. I think I spent a lot of time being in awe rather than expecting to go and compete and try and replace.
That's a difficult one, isn't it? Sorry, Will. That's a difficult one because you almost, I always felt when you go to a new club, you want to be a little bit bigger and better than you actually are, because you want to give that appearance that, I can cope with this.
Yeah.
I can deal with this, but then you also want to be humble because you don't want them thinking you're big time Charlie.
Yeah, it's a real balance.
It's a difficult one
because you want to show what you have and you want to be confident, but then again, it's important to be respectful. There's always a hierarchy in every dressing room. That was a balance.
Are you given a bit of a path? Like they make that sign-in, like are they giving you like a 2-3 year plan in terms of what they want for you? Or
so it wasn't so that would be the way it would be at most clubs now. I think they're a lot more diligent on how, okay, we've made this investment in a player, this will show you the pathway we expect to make, these are the steps we want to hit at each stage, whereas back then I don't think it was like that really. I think it was just sign and then it was almost sink or swim. I was 18 years old and then was just put in a flat on the Albert Dock and left to it. So when my friends were going to university and sort of learning to live away from their parents, I know you're still to do that, but it was a case of me having to go there and just learn things like go cook for yourself, go wash your clothes, and again you'll get there. But I had
you're not having corned beef hash out of a tin?
I wasn't.
No.
The George Foreman grill was a gift I was given by my family, which is like, there you go, stick that.
Corned beef hash does do well on the George Foreman.
Does it?
Get it between two slices of white bread. That is interesting. So these loan moves, they happen. Do you see that as your, like, I know you said that the progression wasn't maybe written out, but do you see that as like your, I do well here, then that's me, like maybe a rung up the ladder when I get back to Everton?
Yeah, I think that was the idea. I think so. When I had 6 months initially at Everton when I first went up there, and then in the January window they wanted to sign Dan Gosling from Plymouth, and it just happened that my former Swindon manager was now the Plymouth manager at the time. So I think to sweeten the deal, it was a case of we take down the money plus you get a loan player that you know from us already. So again, it wasn't really something I had a say in. It was a case of that's what the deal was for them, that they would get what they needed out of it. And again, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I certainly took experiences. I took learnings from that period, but maybe looking back, I probably should have done a full season in the environment of a Premier League football club, I think.
But you're still ticking off games, aren't you, and gaining that experience? Like you say, you've got a big move really early, perhaps too early, like you say, but then you're going back into that. I always find interesting conversation. The mindset of a loan player as well is a little bit different. Yeah. I know you had 6 loans throughout. I had 6 throughout, but I did 5 in one season from Birmingham. I did Stoke, Sheffield United, Derby, New York, Dallas.
Wow.
And it was like, I've just wasted a year of my life playing for...
You've seen some great places.
I did,
Derby.
Exactly. What more do you want? I was in Stoke every Tuesday night. What more do you want? Exactly. But you're doing it for developmental reasons, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, again, whether the experience goes as well as you want from it, I do. There's always learnings you can take from it, and I certainly took from each of my loan periods. I think the most fruitful of my loan periods were ones where I knew it was for a significant period, and it was for a particular reason that I was going to go and do that, and then I was able to fully invest in almost believing that was my club now. I didn't think of myself as a loan player. It was like, okay, that is my club now until further notice, and that's when I had the most fruitful periods, when I was on loan.
Because I know you were, obviously that season's a lot, but you think of you were in Plymouth one year, and then all the way up at Motherwell in another. So you've literally seen the whole football pyramid. And is it for both of you as well? I imagine it's like, especially at that age, you're like just learning how to be around these individuals and learning how to bed into a team. Because very much as a lone player, is it you seen as a bit of an outsider when you initially get there?
Yeah, I think there's definitely players, particularly senior ones, that will be looking to see, are you actually committed to what we're trying to do here? I think certainly, and there was a weight that I felt going from a Premier League club to a Championship and to a League One team, where I felt like, I'm supposed to show that I'm a lot better than these guys, and that probably wasn't the case. They weren't expecting me to be that, but that was my understanding of the situation. So when I wasn't, I then would think, these guys are finding me out already, and I'm not actually a Premier League player, and still as a young player, those are the things that you're having to learn. I had probably, in fact, definitely my worst loan period was the one I learnt the most from, was at Huddersfield, where I had a really difficult spell, and I didn't play many games, and then I was brought back into the team, and I was feeling the weight of being a lone player and not being able to produce what I wanted to, and feeling the confidence just completely drained from me. I went there, and I remember the first couple of weeks training sessions, I felt I'm the best player here, and I was really training well, and I was really making everyone realise that actually, he is a step above this. And then when things didn't go well initially in the games, I didn't get a goal, and the weight started to pile on my shoulders, and the team took a downturn in form since I'd arrived. I could just feel the confidence sapping out of me, leading to a game where I was actually brought off before half time at home, and it was a really, really difficult period for a 19-year-old loanee. And
I mean, that's not on though. No,
it's football, and ultimately I learned a lot from it, and it turned out to be one of my best experiences. It was Lee Clark. It was, so he was obviously a manager here, and
conflicted now.
No, Lee did me a favour, and absolutely no ill will. It was really, honestly, the best learning experience I'd had was to go through that difficult period, and to feel my own home fans actually turn on a young lone player was difficult at the time, and there's no hiding place for me. My mum was at the game, and she found it even more difficult to see the whole stadium turning against the sun is a difficult thing to deal with. But then once I got out the other side of it, it actually was by far and away my most important learning experience.
You're at Burnley. I want to set the scene. You've had a few moves at Coventry, Middlesbrough. Is that when you sort of maybe thought, like, obviously you found your home eventually. We know it was a happy ending, but did you feel like those moves were sort of the ones that this could be the real kick-on point and long periods there?
Yeah, I think so. Certainly when I initially went up to Middlesbrough, it was a team that wanted to get promoted to the Premier League, and that was certainly the aim. I went in the January window, so always a tough time to kind of acclimatise, but I felt like we had the tools to get promoted there, so certainly. And then at Bolton before. Bolton was the move before Burnley, where I went on loan. Again, that was
You scored that goal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I don't forget and I don't forgive.
No, well, I'm sure you don't forget, but you've forgiven me.
At that
surely.
time, I mean,
yeah, you've since forgiven me. So we went.
You backed down quick then.
Yeah.
How quick did you back down
Yeah,
there?
what I've done there.
Get on the front foot, Juki.
What I've done there is myself.
Can you bleep that out?
Pardon?
Can you bleep that out?
Yeah.
No, you're fine.
It's a big stain down
So then when we got a new manager at Middlesbrough, and it didn't feel like the way that the team was setting up would suit me, I moved on to Bolton in the January window on loan, and finished the season really strongly under Dougie Freedman there. Had a decent team, good end of the season, team that was playing to their strengths, that sort of thing, and that's what then ultimately got me the move to Burnley.
Do you, not to make it all about Blues, but do you know that game, obviously you score, there was nothing riding on it for you?
Not
game?
for us, no. And for me personally, it was a case of I didn't know what my future held, so just wanted to try and keep scoring to hopefully get... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I missed a one-on-one that actually would have made it 3-1, so there you go. You're welcome on rubbish in one-on-ones.
You're playing 4D chess, you knew what you were doing.
Right, yeah,
but obviously that day, like I'm most Blues fan, but it sort of went to the wider world. Those scenes in that away end, like when you are making your move to Blue, obviously you played at St Andrews, but like, do you think how like ravenous those fans were for like that day? Yeah,
I've said it a number of times about even though you're the opposition on the day, and particularly because there was nothing riding on us then, and we're on our way to the summer holidays, you can sit back and actually appreciate what was going on for Birmingham at the time. And I remember a few lads mentioning it in the change room because you could still hear the fans, and long after the final whistle went. So there was a real understanding when Birmingham City came around and asked to sign me, that I already knew that the size and the impact that the club can make, definitely.
Because you said the same thing when we had the Watford playoff game, didn't you?
Yeah, I think the noise at St Andrews, certainly during that time, was incredible for a club ground. I always think the older grounds create the atmosphere and keep the noise in, but I always found St Andrews was always a difficult place to go as an opposition player because of the ferocity of the supporters, which then, for me, was part of the reason I came to the club. Yeah. From quite a quiet club in Watford, I came to the noise of Birmingham and just loved it. But not everybody can. Yeah. So you then go to Burnley, get your first promotion. How was that?
Yeah, I mean, it was great to play in the Premier League. Is every kid's dream. Like, you were the same, and again, it's a real kind of pinch me moment when you actually go. And I'd made an appearance off the bench for Everton as a kid, but that was for a few minutes here and there. But to start a Premier League game was a really special feeling, and one that you kind of never forget. So I'll always be grateful for Burnley for providing that opportunity.
Do you just before we go to, do you get, like you spoke earlier about like the Huddersfield times and being bought off, and then even back down to Southampton, like being put as a left back and having to leave there, like when you make that debut, you're not fueled by bitterness, but like I imagine it's like a real like big two middle fingers up to like everyone who doubted me. Yeah,
but also less about the other people, but also that you believed in yourself, and that is kind of a self-satisfaction that actually you didn't give up and you didn't down tools. And I think anyone that gets to a place that they want to be has had to go through a period that they didn't perhaps want to go through at the time. And I was no different. And even when I reflect on my career now, that it's probably the moments where I was at my lowest that actually I look back on and are the most proud of, really. Whether that was, like you say, periods as a youngster where you're not quite sure if you're going to make it, or long-term injuries. I suffered a ACL tear at Burnley and missed near enough the whole season, and to come back from those sorts of things, that those are actually the things that you look on and be most proud of, rather than perhaps some of the achievements.
So let's move to your time at Blues. What do you find in the club at the time that you join? Who is the first one to reach out, and how did it all happen?
So Gary Rowett was really hands on at that point. So my agent had been speaking to him, and he wanted to speak on the phone with me as well before we met. And it was before, nowadays I think you do Zoom calls, you get to do face-to-faces over the internet or whatever it is. But then it was just, it was a phone call. He talked to me about the club, what the project that he had in mind, how he saw me fitting into that, and what he thought that we could achieve. And I really liked what he was saying. I liked the fact that it was an underdog mentality. I felt that the whole way through my career. And I just bought everything that he was selling, and I really couldn't wait to get down here. I'd just come back from a year out with an ACL injury, so for him to show the faith in me, I was really grateful for that. I'd potentially moves to other clubs that summer, but had fell through because they weren't willing to commit, because I've just come back from a long-term injury. So I mean, ultimately straight away you've go, right, I want to repay this guy and give everything that I have for the club. And straight away we were talking about, I already knew the size of the club, or I thought I knew the size of the club due to the atmospheres I played in. But then when you get in and around the cities, when you actually really, really feel it, everybody that you speak to, you don't say, oh, he's a Blues fan. It's always he's a massive Blues nose. There's no it's an identity to it. Everybody feels like they're part of something. So it makes the club really, really special.
In terms of the project that you were being sold back then, was that even easier to, because I imagine you get promised a lot of things by managers across your career, both on and off the pitch, but in terms of the way he was had used Clayton Donaldson at that time, was that very much like, well, I can see he's doing that, I can work with him or play off that as well? Yeah,
I think what I really liked about him is he wasn't fixated on what he wanted a player to look like in his eyes. It was, okay, right, what are the things that this player does really well? How can I maximise that? I think he was really skilled at the way that he managed players as well. He would treat everyone equally, but not the same. So certain players needed different things and different ways of motivating. And he was very clever at sort of picking out what that was and making the fit player feel as good as they could do once they went onto the pitch.
I've got a question that comes up quite a lot. When they were bringing you to the club on loan originally, did they take you to West Hills? Or did they take you to the stadium?
Do you know what? I think I was maybe that far down the pecking order. They didn't take me anywhere at that point. It was a loan, and it was. I think I came to West Hills for the first time when I signed my loan agreement and trained that morning.
Right.
So yeah,
because we've had several on here, and myself included.
Right.
Nobody gets shown West Hills before the contract's signed, because they're worried that people wouldn't do it.
Rat run corridors in between the change rooms. Yeah,
absolutely. The corrugated lines in the middle of the pitches, and all of that. But so the loan starts to go really well.
Yeah,
you're starting to find your feet, feel really comfortable. How does the permanent one come about?
So there was always an agreement that it was a loan with a view to a permanent, and it just left it open to both sides. I think the price was fixed and everything like that. So it was a case of just, does the club want to do it? Do I want to do it? It was essentially a try before you buy for both parties, really. Because from my point of view, I felt like I go into the last year of my contract. If things are going well, I'm scoring goals. I'm in the shop window, as well as trying to impress my new employers, hopefully. And then from the club's point of view, it's a relatively risk-free try before you buy, like I say. And it was quite clear from early days that both parties were happy with it. And I was at that point in my life where, first of all, with the long-term injury that I just had, and second of all, I just found out my wife-to-be was pregnant with our first child. So I really was keen to put down roots, find a home, find a settled club that I could stay with and hopefully be successful for many years with. And it looked like that was the case. It was going to be under Gary.
I suppose it's that stability that you have no idea what's going to happen, like what we know now, but at that point you're just hoping for that after all of the loans, the Burnley, and then the injury.
Yeah,
so important.
Yeah, exactly.
That you stabilise and get the family settled first and foremost.
Yeah,
and then the football comes and the goal.
Yeah,
comes.
That's it. And then particularly at that point, you feel like it's a kickstart to make. Because having just come from the Burnley in the Premier League, it was my idea was it's a kickstart to then go back to the Premier League, and with it being a manager that I felt was going to get the best out of me, play the team that was going to utilise my strengths. I thought that was really important at the time, and yeah, obviously it didn't work out that way. In the end, I signed. I think I signed 3 days before Gary Rowett was sacked. So I think everything was going really well. Both parties were happy to make it permanent. And we said, right, okay, we'll sign the contract. And then as of January 1st, it will be locked in to automatically happen. And then, of course, 3 days later with us 2 points off second place, I think it was. We'd just beaten Ipswich on the Tuesday night. Gary came in to say he'd been relieved of his duties. So I was a bit kind of thrown all over the place at that point.
And how does that affect you primarily, but also the dressing room? It's a rare situation, isn't it, when you think we're progressing here, we're going somewhere, and then all of a sudden there's that managerial change.
Yeah, it is quite rare because you usually, like you say, you sack a manager in generally when things aren't going well and there needs to be something that needs to change. Whereas at that point, I think particularly with the squad that had built, there was that underdog mentality of we were really punching above our weight, and we had a way of playing that was bringing the best out of people, and it brought a togetherness and a closeness within the dressing room that you were kind of all going into the trenches together, and Gary had built that. So I think there was a lot of frustration at the time, but of course you're in the middle of the season, so you can't really spend too much time. You've got another game to prepare for. You have to be professional, and but it would be wrong to say it didn't affect people.
Could you believe, like, we had David Davis on last week, didn't we? And he was speaking quite glowingly about the man of Gianfranco Zola, maybe not so much the manager. What are your thoughts on him? Obviously, knowing what you know now and looking back on that time.
Yeah, I think you can't fault the man. Like, he was a diamond of a bloke. Really, really was. All the right intentions, heart in the right place, wanted to do well, had respect for everybody around the club. So you couldn't argue against that. I think what was difficult was that we tried to change too much in the middle of a season. It was very difficult to do when you had a squad that had been built to play a certain way. Yeah, exactly. And it was very difficult to change that mid-season in a team that has been going relatively successfully, and to convince them, right, that this is going to change. And okay, you're going to now play not to your strengths, and we're going to expect success. And the Championship can find you out pretty quickly. So games come thick and fast, and even if when you're performing to your optimum as a team, the margins are still so small within the Championship. The team, we see it every weekend. Crazy results pop up. There's nothing between the teams. So if you then take away that competitive advantage of all playing to your strengths, you can free fall quite quickly, and that's what happened.
At the time of the change of the manager as well as the change of the ownership, what were your interaction? Well, I mean, obviously we've had a few different players on with different stories of Dong Ren. What were your sort of interactions with the ownership maybe at that time? If any?
Yeah, very little, because especially in those early days, Dong wasn't even around then at that point, so it really was, nobody knew who was calling the shots and who was going to be held accountable for the decisions that were being made. So that was very, very difficult, because you wouldn't even know who to speak to if you wanted to. So I really didn't have much interaction at all.
So that season, but is it true that Gianfranco Zola asked for his resignation in the end?
I believe that he did. Yeah, I don't know that for certain.
Because it was going one way.
It was my understanding was that he and it kind of speaks to the man really, that he felt like he wasn't doing the service that he was being paid to do. But again, I don't know how true that is, but that's what I understand. Yeah.
And then Harry Redknapp, comes in. I mean, I think your time at Blues, obviously on the pitch, is evident from what you did, but with the managers that you go through there. So Harry comes in for that period at the end, does his job. I mean, how crazy were those times?
Yeah, it was. I mean, initially, I think it was the day after that Gianfranco left. So Gianfranco left within hours of us losing at home to Burton, and we had 3 games left of the season. And then I think even later that evening, or perhaps the morning later, was when Harry Redknapp was announced. So it all happened pretty quickly. And then it was a case of we knew that he didn't know most of the players really. He was coming in to kind of try and make everyone feel good, make everyone feel like the best version of themselves, and he was great at that. He really was. And he brought in Steve Cottrell as his assistant, who knew the league, and I think that was very savvy because he did know all the players. He knew all the details of what they are good at and what their weaknesses perhaps are. So they worked really, really well. We ended up winning 2 of the last 3. I think the one blot was obviously losing at Villa Park in the last minute or last few minutes. I think Ogbon Lahore scored the winner on his first game, but then won the final 2 games to stay up on the last day. And at that point, it was relief. It was there was a lot of emotions really, because it was a case that we hadn't expected to be in that situation throughout most of the season. We'd expected to be fighting up at the other end of the table, and it had just been free fall, and it was a case of just never wanted to be in that situation again really.
Sometimes that's overlooked, isn't it, when the changes that you've just discussed? So signing for Gary, then Gianfranco comes in, then Harry and Steve come in. The contrasts of personalities there, but you've got the nucleus of the dressing room that essentially has to do the job.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's it. It is difficult, but there's no point sort of making yourself feel bad over that situation. We're really fortunate to be professional footballers. We do the job that we love. That doesn't negate the fact that there are pressures and there are difficulties, and you do feel the weight of it. But that's the job, and that's you've got to kind of get on with it and bring the best version of yourself.
Was the season under Gary Monk probably one of your favourites? Like, the relationship you had with Che was absolutely unbelievable. The team was firing. Obviously, up and until the point of the points deduction, there was real hope and optimism. Is that some of your happiest times, sort of pre-Nighthead?
Yeah, I think so. It was again, it was getting back to playing for a manager that I knew wanted me to play regularly, and he was setting up the team to play to its strengths. And you get a lot of strength from that for yourself, really. If you feel like you're going to be one of the first names on the team sheet, and you feel like the team is set up to try and get the best out of you personally, and it gives you a lot of value that you're going to help the team rather than being a passenger. So I love that season. I like the fact that we, again, going back to that underdog mentality, that siege mentality that Gary created, because externally there were things that were happening that meant that we had a lot of pressure put on us in terms of transfer embargoes and not allowed to bring people in. There's a points deduction looming over us, and what Gary did really, really well was just keeping everything as basic as possible, as controlling everything that we could within our changing room, within what we were doing. And it was almost a case of like, screw everybody else, screw what else is going to happen, we can control this. And he did a great job of keeping everyone focused on that. And I think we weren't too far away from being a decent, really competitive team. If we could have added a couple of little bits when the embargo lifted, and without the points deduction, we would have been a team similar to the mould of the Gary Rowett team, where you were really going to be competitive in this league and being amongst the right end of the table.
Just speak about Che in there, one man that actually you can both speak about, because I know you had a trip recently to the Netherlands and you reconnected with Michael Kieftenbeld.
He's so jealous, Juki, that we went away and
you not get the invite?
At home.
I thought no.
No. There's some requests saying that please stay at home as well.
I didn't realise the message never sent.
Oh no! Next time. Next time.
Is there a next time?
No. There is for us three.
Absolutely. You'll be on standby. I think there's club sort of budget issues.
Yeah,
that's what it's exactly.
We had our trip to Morocco, and you loved that with me, didn't you?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, Holland's amazing.
Anyway, Michael Kieftenbeld, the pre-match video still gets shown when he's putting the tackle in on Grealish. But I feel really like you speak about those teams with the underdog mentality. Like, what was he like to play with? And like, he basically sums that up, doesn't he? Yeah,
Keith is a one that is just a perfect teammate. He's someone you want in the trenches with you. He's someone that you would never look at a game and think he hasn't given every ounce of himself on that day. Whether he was good, bad or indifferent, he was everything he had to give that day, and that was kind of what you want from a teammate. He would back his teammates up. He was honest. He was a good player. He was really he would sense danger really, really well, and he would be happy to do the ugly bits that allowed perhaps the more technical players to go and do their bit. But he was so important in those types of teams as well. And I think the fans loved him as well, because when you needed someone to lift the tempo of a game, he would do something just to make get that feeling around, whether it was a tackle, whether it was just driving on his teammates, whether it was sticking a volley in from 30 yards at Pride Park. He was just I think he had a really good connection with the Birmingham fans and the city, really, and just a top guy all round as well.
What was it like during those COVID times as well? Because I imagine as a footballer, it's a very unique circumstance, and then obviously there's so much going on off the pitch here as well. You've had a bit of stability here at Birmingham at that point, but where were you in your head with your sort of journey at Birmingham at that time?
Yeah, I think the season got cut short in March, didn't it? And we were kind of doing okay. So what was frustrating going into that season is because we'd had a decent season with Gary Monk, and it felt like, okay, now is the time to add a few little bits amongst that organisation that he brought, and we would be looking up at the right end of the table. And then inexplicably, like as you felt like you're getting going again, they sacked him in the off season, I think 2 days before pre-season. And then put his assistant manager in charge, so it just felt like it was a knee-jerk reaction to something that wasn't a problem, and it felt like they hadn't actually put a plan in place really going forward. So that was quite demoralising again, because it felt like we're swimming against the tide a little bit at times. It was almost like one step forward, 2 steps back. But having said that, we actually had started the season relatively well, and we're going at, I think we were around about mid-table at the break, so maybe perhaps just under. But like I say, with the Championship, you're only ever a couple of bad results away from trouble, or a couple of good results away from the playoffs, it seems. So we had that time off during COVID, and that was quite unsettling for everyone, really. I think the club decided not to renew any of the out-of-contract players, because the season started again in July, didn't it? So then the lads that were out of contract, they would have had to play without a contract. There was lots of examples of that, and we had quite a few that meant that when we restarted the season in July, we were kind of down to the bare bones, and you're having to play, I think, 9 games in 3 weeks or something like that. And we probably had 13 or 14 senior players that would, and then the rest was filled up with academy graduates. So that was quite a difficult period, and it just felt like we weren't sure where the club was going at that point, what the direction was. But we just about did enough to get over the line on that occasion as well. But from a personal point of view, I had an okay season. I think I had 15 in the season, and at that point it was a case of, I just want to know what direction the club's taking. I want to see us going in the right direction before we start the new season.
As you touch on all of the things that the dressing room has had to deal with the ownership at that time, and you talk about you've had a decent individual season, is there a point where you think, I need to get away from here because this is madness? Or are you always, no, this is where I'm gonna do it?
I think there were times where you think you're worried about what the direction of the club was going, and then it seemed as if whenever there was a time where I thought, okay, now might be the time, then there would be a little bit of hope. Like when Gary Monk came in, I thought, okay, now brilliant, we're on the right tracks again. And so at that point, it always felt like opportunity for the club was around the corner, and I didn't want to walk away having not seen that happen. So that was the thing. I think it just felt like, there was that possibility, and for a club like this, once it gets motoring, you just wanted to be a part of it. So I was really reluctant to walk away from that.
Well, let's speak on that, because it feels like now you sit here, you were rewarded, weren't you, really? Because obviously Knighthead come in, and obviously the first season doesn't go the way it is, but I mean, maybe relegations previously under other ownerships would have spelt, who knows what for this club. But going into that League One season, like did you feel like you were rewarded for staying here because the future was so bright with everything that was coming?
Yeah, like you said, if we had got relegated under the previous ownership, it potentially, it could have been as bad as it gets for football clubs. So that was something to hold on to, the fact that at least we were in a situation now where the ownership were fully committed, and they weren't going anywhere, and in fact they were going to double down on their investment and make sure that the club's heading back in the right direction. So that was really great to see, and you always want to look back and felt like what you did was worth it and worth something. So even if that was just making sure that the worst didn't happen until a safe pair of hands could take over, then that was something to really appreciate.
We have done a podcast on the whole your final season, so that's going to go out as well. So that was fantastic. I'm also conscious it's 4,084 degrees in here. I've lost 1.5 stone, which I can't afford to lose because there's nothing left of me. I wanted to touch just before we head off on international, because there was obviously England you could have had the chance for.
Yeah, just missed that one, unfortunately. Yeah, I haven't officially retired, but
have you not?
Not officially.
Okay.
I actually texted my son the other day. I've missed out on another World Cup.
I can't believe it. When are you going to announce your retirement?
I'm not.
No.
I'm not going to announce it. I'm just going to let it happen naturally.
Well, I'm basically trying to get Tommy on Instagram. Do you think that's a good idea or a bad
idea?
Yeah,
it's a great idea.
I said it'd be really good.
See, when Juki says it, I believe him. When you say
if Sean Dyche can get on Instagram, you can get on Instagram.
What I was going to say is international. Yeah, because we were speaking off there as well. Poland, maybe. I know that from my Football Manager times. And then you obviously mentioned about Lithuania. Was it ever close?
My granddad was born in Vilnius, which is now Lithuania, but at the time was Poland. So I was eligible for both countries, and it was Poland was someone that did inquire and called me up to their under 21s when I was at Everton. It would have just been a case of paperwork, getting passport sorted, but at the time it just felt like I didn't necessarily have an affiliation with the country. I didn't speak the language. I just didn't feel like it was a fit that would have felt right to me. We side by side with players belting out their national anthem and you can't speak a word of the language. For me, it just didn't feel right. And then I thought that I nearly got a call up to Ireland with Mick McCarthy was in charge. But it turned out, unfortunately, my grandma wasn't born in Ireland. She'd just moved back to Ireland, so missed out on that one.
I was exactly the same.
Exactly,
Jack Charlton gave me a call up early 90s, and my granddad was born in the UK, not the Republic, and so I missed out by one generation. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, so actually, my grandma's parents were born in Ireland. They moved to England for her to be born, then moved back to Ireland. So she actually was an Irish citizen, but then because she actually wasn't born in Ireland, I couldn't play or something like that.
Were you ever tempted near the end to maybe dip back into trying out?
Just make up a country and just
no, but
it doesn't work like that. No, there's rules. The rules. There's parameters.
Go see who's available.
I mean around Lithuania and
France.
France. In terms of Lithuania or Poland or something like that, because the options might have been there still of
just been Lewandowski's boot boy or something. Yeah, I'd have taken it. Yeah, no, I wasn't. No, it wasn't something. I think just didn't fancy it in the end, or they didn't fancy me.
So the World Cup in the summer,
you never know.
Who are you supporting?
England, of course.
You got a lot of ex-teammates.
There's a few guys with Scotland with Grant and Lyndon, and obviously Shea as well out there in Scotland. Jude, plenty of. I forgot about. How could you forget about Jude? Yeah, go and support him. But it's amazing for the club to be associated with that many players. Obviously, Paik is out there with South Korea as well. So a lot of interest. I'm really looking forward to it. Just finally, now you're in this recruitment position, I imagine it was sort of like people approaching you back in the day, like me, around you, you scored this goal here. So you get people coming to you going, I've seen this player in the South Division of this. Oh, every single day, yeah. In Tesco, you're trying to do your weekly shop, and everybody's got a player that they've seen first and they want you to know about, definitely. That's good, yeah. So I just wanted to chat to you offline, actually. Yeah, we can talk about it afterwards. I appreciate that. Thank you. Juki, it's been phenomenal. You've done 2 of these with us now, so we really appreciate it. We will get you on an IV drip to replace any fluids that have been lost for all of us today, because it is... it's not the 34 degrees today, is it? But it's definitely the high 30s. You okay, pal? I've never been sat in a microwave before. I've really enjoyed it. It's a new experience. Let's go to the pub. Should we do that? Let's do that. Is that all right with you, Juki? If I can come, yeah. Okay. You don't have to ask, pal. Very much thanks for watching. I'm going to go and pass out. Get your questions, comments down below. I don't really know what I'm saying. I think I've got heat stroke. Keep right on.